Hello, and welcome to another episode, once again, of the White Lightning Podcast. I'm your host, as always. Eric is back. My weekly guest is on. What's up, bruh?
What's up, man? Glad to be back for another episode.
Yep. Thank you for being on, dude. It's been a rough week for both of our squads. I'm excited to talk about it. This week, we're going to talk about the NFL in general in some later episodes this week. We're going to get your father back on. I'm going to get a couple other guests on. So it's going to be a good week. You know, we've kind of just been focusing on our teams, but now we're kind of going to branch out for the rest of the league. So I'm excited, man. But today, we're going to talk about the Browns. We're going to talk about what happened to the Steelers. And we're going to talk about some teams that have surprised us so far. So, what do you think, Eric? You ready to do this thing? Whether you want to
I'm
or
ready
not.
to go. I'm ready to go.
All right, without further ado, let's do it. Let's kick it off with my team, if you don't mind. So, on Sunday at Cleveland Browns Stadium, the Browns got absolutely embarrassed by the division rival Baltimore Ravens with the final score of 28-3. And everything that transpired before the game, during the game, after the game was just flat out weird. And I'm really excited to get into it. So here's a couple notes. At the end of the first, it was 7-3, and it felt like one of those games where it could have been 20-3, and it felt the same. I just felt the Browns had no shot. Their offense looked horrible. They couldn't move the ball downfield. It was awful. And then by halftime, the score was 21-3, and that was just great. My defense this game gave up a total of 296 yards, 131 yards rushing, 16 first downs. Going into the game, my team averaged giving up 163 total yards, 7 first downs in total per game, and 52 yards rushing per game. So the Ravens just absolutely demolished these averages that the Browns gave up through 3 weeks. So that was very scary to see. It felt like they could run on us. The running game was really weird to me because that's what something the Browns felt like they pride themselves on was you're not going to be able to run on us. We shut down Derrick Henry. We shut down Joe Mixon. The Steelers had nothing going on the rushing game. I don't even believe you had 50 yards rushing on Monday night. We pride ourselves on the rushing. They ran all over us on Sunday, and it really made me mad. But here's where it gets really, really, really weird. So let's start at the beginning. Okay. Saturday night, this is going to go back to the offensive side of the ball, and this whole story feels important. Okay. Going into Saturday night, Deshaun Watson was listed as questionable on the injury report. NFL fans know questionable means they're probably going to play. Okay. Watson all week said he was going to play. The coaching staff was confident he was going to play. There was a confidence that he was going to play. And he was telling teammates that he was going to be ready to play. So Sunday morning, he goes through his pre-game routine, and he was going to test out his shoulder. He could not throw 5-yard passes without pain. He could not throw 10-yard passes without pain. So shockingly, he gets rolled out. And the week that transpired after this was so bizarre to me. So DTR gets the start. Stefanski comments after the game. Watson would have played if he could. Watson didn't feel like he had his full faculties. Team thought he was going to play. Okay. Here's where it gets interesting now. Andrew Berry says yesterday, we knew it became obvious to us that he was not going to be ready to play, and we thought that we should have sat him. Hold on here for a second. Andrew Berry says that we thought it was obvious he wasn't going to be able to play. But then Stefanski says he would have played if he could. So whose decision was it? Was it the coach's decision or was it Watson's decision? I don't know. And then Jason Lloyd made a report today that the teammates were upset with Watson that he did not play because he said all week that he was going to be able to play. So just a complete malpractice of this entire organization on Sunday. So DTR gets the start. And what do the Browns do to ease their rookie quarterback, their 5th-round quarterback, playing a division rival at home? They say, DTR, you're going to throw the ball 5 times in the first 7 plays, 7 times in the first 10 plays, the 7th one being an INT, and for 20 minutes of the game, it was a 1-score game. They had the ball 5 times during those 20 minutes of when it was a 1-possession game. DTR threw the ball 16 times. Eric, I don't know about you, but don't you think it's a better strategy to lean into your rookie quarterback with some, I don't know, your great rushing attack or, short passes? No, that was not the case. And here's what really makes me mad, okay? This was a head scratcher to me. This is a great stat. Rookie quarterback empty formations so far this year. How many possessions or how many plays is a rookie quarterback in the empty set with no running back or no tight end helping him block? Okay. CJ Stroud has had 28 snaps of this. DTR had 12 snaps on Sunday. Young has only had 7 the whole year. Richardson has only had 7 the whole year. Eric, I don't know about you, but what separates Richardson and Young is about 4 games. Young has started 3, Richardson has started 4. So basically what I'm getting at is it felt like on Sunday we were trying to get into a passing shootout attack versus a former MVP winner and a top 10 quarterback in the league objectively. And it turned out horribly. Horribly. It led to long developing passing plays. It led to him throwing 50-yard bombs in his first 5-yard passes. It led to 19 pressures and 4 sacks. It was a complete malpractice on Sunday. It was so obvious that they did not expect DTR to play. And what made it worse was reports that were saying Watson did not throw the ball really all week in practice. So you thought on Sunday morning he was going to be ready to go, just magically ready to go. And that's what makes me mad is it was just a malpractice all around. The game script for DTR, the comments from my GM saying that it was obvious, but then Stefanski said, oh, well, it was up to Watson. And then Watson's teammates being upset that he wasn't playing. Just a malpractice in general. So that really aggravated me because, the season isn't over. That was not a season-ending loss. But that game means something, Eric. You know that. We're in the AFC North. Every game matters, especially a divisional game. And we just get blown out at home after a complete confusing injury report and a horrible game script with DTR. Where was the screenplays? There was none. Where were the checkdowns? There were none. Where were the short yardage plays that you can get out quick? There was none. Where was the play action plays? There were none. Instead, we put him in empty sets, throwing the ball downfield at a higher percentage than any rookie has had to start the season. So that's just my thoughts. And that's my little wrap up. I know I don't know if you caught the game or not, but what do you think about all that?
I didn't catch much of the game. Obviously, I was watching my team and breaking down all the stuff there. But I'll get to that. I'll get to that embarrassment later. To the Browns, I found some interesting stats that I thought were kind of bad. You guys ran more plays than the Ravens, and they averaged 5.4 yards a play. You guys averaged 2.6 yards a play, and you guys ran 10 more plays of offense. They only had 296 total yards, so what does that tell you? In the whole game, they only had 300 yards. You guys on offense were setting them up in red zone opportunities from costly picks. The Ravens in the red zone went 4 for 4. Did not get stopped once. The Browns went 0 for 2 in the red zone. DTR, we found out, obviously is not a good quarterback. We obviously have figured that out. But yeah, it was his first start. The Browns put him in terrible situations, like from things you've said. They're running empty, just putting him in bad spots and not putting him in comfortable spots where he can do good things. The whole Watson situation did not make sense to me at all. The whole week, I didn't actually hear the Watson report of him being actually injured till about, I think it was like later in the week, end of the week. And then out of nowhere, I heard he became questionable. And usually when something like that happens, you're kind of like, okay, maybe he just kind of set out of practice. Maybe he just needed a day off because that's what some QBs do. Then Sunday happened, and magically he was out. That just seems a little bit off to me because you know what that tells you right there? they obviously did not practice with Watson, and that was why, like, they obviously just didn't practice with him, and his shoulder
Nope.
was not comfortable. And it makes you
Nope.
wonder if they ran through offense with DTR at the helm, or they were running with Watson. Nobody knew. And I don't know what the whole situation was there, but I thought it was really strange because the owner and the coach not being on the same page is very, very, very bad. I mean, that's the two top things you need in your team: your owner and Andrew Berry and Stefanski. They obviously weren't on the same page because they obviously said different statements after the game. So I thought it was a funky game. I mean, the defense was a lot different. I was watching a couple of highlights. It just looked very off. There was holes to be running through. It just didn't look like the Browns defense that we were seeing in the Steelers game, and then the Bengals game, and then whoever else you played, the Titans game. The game was so weird. They ran for 131 yards, and they were getting 4 to 5 yards a carry.
Yeah,
So overall, it was just a funky game, and the Watson situation just didn't make sense to me at all. And I just think right there and then you knew the game was over because the whole confusion with the team and Watson, I think, really started the uncomfortableness between the game.
it was so weird, and you're absolutely right. It felt like obviously the game script shows that they were totally taken aback by Watson not playing.
Oh yeah,
Because
definitely.
every coach in football would have not have gave DTR that script unless your name's Matt Canada. Like that game script was awful for him. And
Yeah.
it showed. He threw 121 yards and 3 picks. We ran the ball less than we did the week prior against the Titans. And it was a complete head scratcher. And the only thing I'll give the defense is they had no breaks. They
Yeah.
had no breaks. And you're absolutely right. We gave the Ravens short yardage after we threw turnovers and the defense had to rush on the field. That's the one thing I'll give them. But they look bad. They just look bad. So again, the Browns don't just lose. It has to be embarrassing, and there has to be stories about it after. And it can't just be like, man, that was a hard fought loss. Nope. It has to be in a horrible, traumatic fashion, and it's bad for the team, and it's just an awful look.
Elijah Moore, not to cut you off. I don't know if you've seen the one play where he rushed and lost like 20
Yep.
yards.
Oh no, I trust me. I saw that play happen. Yep.
You're going to run that play with a rookie QB that has never played a snap in his life. You're going to
Right.
run that play, then put him in 2nd and 20. Really?
Yeah.
Like, that stuff right there is going to set you up for a failure. And
And
it's
I'm
kind of why the reason to why Pittsburgh is doing bad right now, because they're setting themselves up in 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, etc. It's just bad. It's just bad coaching and play calling.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. That game should have been for the Browns. It should have been a time of possession. It should have been, we're going to have the ball for 20 minutes. You're going to have the ball for 5. We're going to run the ball. We're going to have checkdowns. No. The game script was awful, and good coaches don't do that. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm not a fan of Stefanski. The game script was awful yesterday. He's 17-21 record as a coach. He has won one game going into the fourth quarter in his tenure with the Browns where they were trailing by 4 points going into the fourth quarter and won the game. I'm not a fan. That's a malpractice on Sunday. Good coaches don't do that. That was bad. Do we want to talk about some bad coaching more going to the Steelers? You're good with that?
Yep.
Yeah, you called me after Sunday's game a little upset, and for obvious reasons. I'm excited to see the stats you pulled and your thoughts about this.
I'll tell you what, man.
Let me sit
That
back.
game was really traumatizing to watch. A average Houston team, honestly, I don't even know if they're average anymore. They could really be good. I don't know. But going into that game, I thought they were average. We made them look like the San Francisco 49ers that game. They were doing whatever they wanted to us from start to finish. Offensively, the first drive of the game, I knew the game was over. They went straight down the field. I'm not kidding you. They were on their goal line. They scored first. They scored one time. It got called back for a flag. Then they scored again off another flag that we got bailed out. Then they scored a third time. They had 3 times to score, not once did we stop them. It was so bad. I watched Tank Dell lay out TJ Watt on a block. That's how lazy we got at one point in the game. They had a total yards of 451 yards against a really good defense. They were averaging 6.5 yards a play. 6.5. You're gonna win a football game every single time. I'm sorry. It baffled me. I pulled some pretty interesting stats. So we let me see. So we had 4 passing first downs. Four passing first downs. That just is terrible. The Steelers have allowed 135 or more yards rushing in 3 of its first 4 games to 3 running backs. We may think this defense is good, but if you see the stats that we've had against receivers and running backs, it has been truly pathetic. We've had 3 games also where a receiver has went over 150 yards. Brandon Ayuk, Devontae Adams, and Nico Collins. Nico Collins looked like Randy Moss that game. It was truly an embarrassment on the defensive end. I haven't even got to the offensive end yet. My gosh, is that offense is truly pathetic. I want to give Matt Canada hope, but I truly cannot. I truly cannot. I have been trying to keep my composure for 3 years, and it just continues to baffle me what this man does. Coming out of, we had our first 5 drives of the game up to the first quarter to halftime, all resulted in punts. Didn't pass midfield, and out of the half, we actually started off pretty good. We got a stop. And then Najee actually had the best game of this season. I don't know if you've heard, but the man looked like a whole different running back from what we've seen. He actually looked fast. He actually looked explosive, and we were blocking pretty good. It was truly a good sight to see at the start of the half. And then we got down to the field, and then once a red zone offense came, it just went flat. We passed the ball three times in a row after like 2 20-yard runs. And then we run 3 pass plays straight out of the half. It truly baffles me. And don't even get me started to the 4th-and-1 play. I don't know if you've seen that clip yet.
I've seen it. Yeah, I watched it. I watched the highlights.
I'm going to recap you what happened. It's not even just the play, it's how it happened, moments before that. So we get to 4th-and-1, which is fine. 4th-and-1, it is 6-16, or was it 3-16? I can't remember. But the point is, we had the momentum on our side. Our defense got us 2 stops. We got a field goal, and then we're driving the ball. If we score a touchdown, we're down by 6 still in the 3rd quarter. So we're moving the ball again. And like I said, we run the ball good. We obviously weren't passing the ball good. I mean, we had 4 first downs. It's truly incredible. So yeah, we get to the 4th-and-1, and we're deciding if we want to kick a field goal. Because I think it was 6-16, because I remember we were deciding.
Yes, it was. It was 6-16, and on 3rd and 18, Pickens had the
yardage,
the 17-yard catch. Yes.
Yep. You're right. And we called a timeout because if we kicked the field goal, we would have been down by 1 on a score. So I mean, I get all that. But Mike Tomlin called a timeout, and they discussed the play. And out of the call, I seen they were set up in shotgun. So I'm like, what in the Lord does Matt Canada have cooked up right now? And this dude goes out in a bunch set with Najee Harris right next to Kenny Pickett, and they snap it, and it's an immediate sack, which leads to a Kenny Pickett injury. And thankfully, he did not get injured, and they said he might have a chance to play, by the way, which is a big break considering all the injuries that we have right now. It's really bad. Pat Freiermuth is now out for 2 to 3 weeks. Deontay Johnson is currently not back. Our left tackle's out right now, which is fine. I don't screw that dude. Uh, but you get my point. This offense will not get any better until Matt Canada goes bye-bye. It just is truly, truly pathetic the way I I'm telling I've been telling my brother this. I think Matt Canada is trying to get fired the way he calls plays. It is really, really bad. And I've seen a clip earlier. Earlier in the game, it was 2nd and 16. We ran that play on our 4th and 1 play. It was the same exact play. We ran a 2nd and long play for our 4th and 1 play. I just don't. I just truly do not understand it. And this team could be good, but Matt Canada is really screwing us. I'm sorry. The man has to go bye-bye. You get the point, and I just really had to get that out and rant. So
That's a great rant. That's a great rant. I think if you didn't watch the game, or if you did watch the game, you wanted a different perspective. That was great. Some stats that blow my mind with this Steelers team. You ready for this?
Yep.
This is great. Okay. Since the Matt Canada era started, and I'm going to give a shout out to Warren Sharp. He posted this video on Twitter. It was great. It was a great rundown. And I'm going to be kind of pulling some stats that he made from the video. So, when the Steelers defense holds their opponent to under 22 points, the Steelers are 19-3-1. Very good. Very good.
Yep.
When the opponent scores over 22 points, the Steelers are 1-15.
What does that tell you there?
That's incredible.
What does that tell you?
That's
what does that tell you?
incredible.
And I want to add something really quick. If you look at C.J. Stroud stats in that game, you would think Patrick Mahomes was throwing the ball. Like,
Yeah,
if you
he's
didn't
great.
watch the game and you've seen his passer rating from yards to touchdowns to picks, you would think Patrick Mahomes would be throwing the ball.
He's had a great year. He had no INTs. He has 12 touchdowns, over 3,000. It's impressive.
Two more stats I want to pull up quick because I'm truly, truly now energized. I'm fired up. Since the Matt Canada era has started in Pittsburgh, the first year we averaged 20 points as an offense. Then we went to 18 or 17, and then now we're around the 10-point mark. We are decreasing by like 3 to 5 points, and it's truly getting worse. Another incredible stat to me, since Matt Canada has been the offensive coordinator, we have not had a 400-yard game yet as a offense. And every team in the NFL since Matt Canada has been signed in 2021 has had 4 400-yard games. Every team in the NFL, we haven't had one.
That's
I'm
incredible.
done. I'm done.
That's incredible. That's a good one. That's a good one. A couple other ones to pile it on. Okay. He made a really good point as well. When was the last game you watched for the Steelers where the defense played bad and the offense played good and the Steelers won? When's the last time you watched that? I can't remember.
Probably since Ben played. Probably since Ben played.
Since 2021, since Matt Canada has gotten there, they are bottom 5 in points per game, 31st in yardage, 31st in points scored in the first quarter. This year, okay, the Steelers have had 26 first-half drives. One of them resulted in making it into the red zone. 61% of their drives made it to third down. They 55% of the time are 3 and out. And they have the fewest plays per drive in the NFL. And listen, I told you about this as well. And enough stat reading is, and Colin Cowherd says this all the time, and shout out to him, I totally agree. The Steelers are so caught up in their way in tradition and culture, and we win because we have, tradition, and we look out for each other. We have continuity. We have stability. Okay, stability has had you have one of the worst offenses in football for the past 3 years. And I agree with you. Can you imagine a functional offensive coordinator with this team? Yep. You know what I mean? I just read you a stat that when the Steelers are holding their opponents to under 22 points, they're 19-3-1. So think about that. If you can get a competent offensive coordinator they would be dramatically better. I think so. I mean, I
Yeah.
truly think that's what's holding them back. The stats are obvious. And again, the Steelers need to get out of their ways. They need to get stuck out of their own ways and realize that this is not going to work. You've gave Canada ample time to prove himself, and he has not done that yet. And again, that's the Steeler way, is tradition and stability. And I will say this, stability does not translate into wins. Okay, the Eagles had two different regimes in 3 years or 5 years, and they made 2 Super Bowls. Okay, Doug Peterson in his first year took the Jags to the playoffs. Okay, Brian Dable in his first year took the Giants to the playoffs. You know, like stability does not translate into wins. I really don't believe that. And what are you going to say something?
You can keep on. You can keep on going.
No, I've said my piece. I think we're on the same page. The Steelers cannot be taken seriously until their offense is better, until Matt Canada is fired. And
Let me just. Okay.
what were you going to say?
Let me just say this to everyone out there that says the Steelers are average. Every year they win 9 football games, 9 to 8 wins. We all know that Tomlin has never had a losing a season. We all get that. He's great. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. We all know that. We're getting 9 wins a year with Matt Canada. Think about what we would do with not even an insane coordinator, but a functional quarterback, not a functional coordinator. We would probably be a 11 to 12 win football team, and probably first in the AFC North currently, and maybe even last year. Maybe. Like, we are winning 9 games with Matt Canada with these terrible offensive stats, horrible offensive stats. I don't know. I don't know what the Steelers are holding on to, but it's truly like, I get the loyalty and I love being a Steelers fan just for that reason, because we've only had 3 coaches in our franchise. But at some point, when things go wrong really bad for a long period of time, it's time to move on. It's time to move on.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, the Steelers got the Ravens on Sunday. Kenny Pickett's hopeful to play. That's a big one.
Yep.
We gave you what they need to do. They got to play better offensively. And they got to shut down Lamar. The Steelers actually play the Ravens very well.
Lamar looks really bad versus Pittsburgh. Look up his stats. It is truly bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, he doesn't play well against Pittsburgh. That's a big game. And I'll close with the Browns. The Browns are going into a bye, and then after that, they're playing the Niners. The Browns rank 30th offensively in efficiency. You cannot go into that going into the Niners. You have to play better offensively. It is what it is. So that's that. I'm going to talk about one team that needs to be talked about, and then you're going to talk about one team, and then we're going to wrap it up. The Giants deserve to get talked about, right? I mean, is this not news? I mean, we're talking about a team that was in the top 8 teams in the NFL last season. They were one of the 4 remaining teams in the NFC, and they had a great season. Outdid themselves, outplayed themselves. It was great. We're considering and talking about them going into full tanking mode after 4 games. I mean, that's seriously a conversation that was had just a year ago. Around this time, they were, breaking necks. They were beating the Ravens. They were advancing to 4-1, and now we're talking about them going into full tank mode. It's insane. On Monday night, they gave up 11 sacks to the Seattle Seahawks, who have a pretty average defensive line. Daniel Jones had 2 costly turnovers, one in his own territory that led to a fumble, and the Seahawks ended up scoring a touchdown, and the pick 6 that pretty much put the icing on the cake and lost them the game. This Giants defense in 4 weeks has given up 125 points. That is a total of 31 points per game for a Wink Martindale defense that played great last year. And to go a step further, in their last 5 games, counting the Eagles playoff game, they have given up 165 points through 5 games. This is a complete failure of an organization from top to bottom. This is a Joe Schoen mishandle. I blame Brian Dable. I blame the defense. I blame the D-line. I blame the O-line. I blame my quarterback. The Giants have not had a functional O-line in the past 10 years, and they have continued to fail to address it. I blame Joe Schoen and Brian Dable for not realizing it sooner. Evan Neal could not block a snail. He could not block a grandma. He is awful. He's blocking his own teammates, actually, and then criticizing the fans to when they say that he's playing poor. And Daniel Jones, after a very big contract, is playing poor. And again, it's so incredible how this offseason extension, 4 games in, we're looking at other quarterbacks. That is crazy. I did not expect this downfall. What do you think about all this?
I actually talked to my brother last night because we obviously know I was a huge Giants fan. I actually went on a little talk with him about it, and I'm gonna have to disagree with the Daniel Jones thing. I've been really high on him since out of the draft, and I feel like they are truly setting him up for failure. I feel like ever since he's came on their team, they have given him nothing. Even last year, I don't even think that team was really all that good. They had no receivers. Their line was eh. That defense was great. It was basically a Jones and Saquon show. That's the reason they made the playoffs. Defense and Jones and Saquon. And maybe Isaiah Hodgins here and there. But I'm going to get into a little thing. So just want to say the offensive line is truly, truly pathetic.
That's probably the worst. That's probably the worst O-line I have seen in a long time. And probably the worst O-line I have seen since the Chiefs-Bucks Super Bowl, where it just like as soon as the rush came. I mean, truly, this might be the worst O-line I've ever seen. Ever.
No,
ever.
It's immediately as Daniel Jones says hike. I seen him play. There was 4 guys on it.
Yeah.
And then there was Giants players just watching forwards. Watching their QB get sacked.
Yeah.
And obviously they don't have Saquon. That is a big loss, obviously. But I still don't even think if he plays that none of these games are changing. I don't even think Saquon could be changed.
Doesn't matter.
Maybe it'd be a closer game, but they still lose. These are games that they are currently losing. The offensive line is just truly, truly pathetic, and they should be ashamed. They should send Daniel Jones $1 million per lineman for getting – I mean, he's probably in an ice bath 24 hours a day since every single game that he's played. I mean, Daniel Jones obviously has looked bad. I don't know. The Cardinals game, he looked good. But when the games has mattered, the Cowboys, the 49ers – and Seattle, he hasn't been playing great. But I do not think it's his fault. I feel like if you gave this dude some time and the receivers, I just don't think they did enough this offseason to get him some
I agree.
weapons. They do not have a true number one, in my opinion. They are all a bunch of wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3s at best.
Yeah, right. No, and that's what I told Ethan was the failure to find a wide receiver 1 this offseason was weird to me. I mean, the Waller acquisition was a good one, and they gave up nothing, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I tell Ethan all the time, the top 10 teams in football, they have at least one receiver that's in the top 20, top 15. That's just
except the Chiefs, but they're obviously.
And I would count Kelsey as probably a top 15 wide receiver.
He's the exception that you can get away with.
Yeah. Right. They have a top 15 pass catcher at some point, in the top 10 teams in football. And listen, I agree with you. I feel bad for Jones, right? A little bit, because he has no time to throw. This organization has let him down from an offensive line standpoint, and I think his weapons can be better. But he's not seeing the field well. And you could tell that the pressure is getting to him because he is running out of clean pockets. There's footage of that. He's not reading the field well. I mean, no matter if the O-line's giving up a sack in 2 seconds or not, the fumble in your own territory is costly, and the red zone touchdown, the red zone INT can't happen.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry, Daniel Jones. I get it. Your O-line's playing bad. You cannot have those turnovers there. And one last point. It's a loaded quarterback class.
Yep.
And if the Giants have a chance to take Drake May, Caleb Williams, I can't see that I can't see anybody being worse than the Bears. But if you have a chance to take Caleb Williams, if you have a chance to take Drake May, if you have a chance to take Bo Nix, Penix, I think you have to do it. It's too good of a quarterback class to just, to throw it out there. That's what I'm saying. Do you say no, Eric? Do you say no if the Giants have Drake May, Bo Nix available that you would stick
I'm saying no. I'm saying no.
Bro, that's crazy. And why?
I'm saying no because, look, I get there's been times where Jones has seen open receivers. I get all that. But there's a point, Pickett is kind of dealing with the same exact thing. If the line is not blocking and one play they somehow do block, you kind of are shocked and you panic because you're not comfortable with your offensive line. So you're not confident. So you want to run out of the pocket and just try and make a play because you're just so used to running out of the pocket because your line's not blocking. Now, obviously, as a QB, you have to adjust to that because that's what being a franchise QB is. But I just don't think Drake May, Penix, and whoever else is in that class would do anything better than what Jones is doing. Do you think these guys – no, I'm serious. Do you think any of these guys in this upcoming draft class, if you put them where Jones is at right now, is doing anything better?
I think Drake May would be better than him right now. And
That's
my thing is, though, except for 1 year, Jones has showed you nothing that he can be your franchise cornerstone. And there is a mold in the NFL. Are you a top 5 quarterback? That is the mold to win the Super Bowl. Because, Hurts, when they went to the Super Bowl, he was at a top 5 level. Mahomes at a top 5 level. Okay? Burrow was at a top 5 level. Stafford. Can Daniel Jones ever get there? My answer is no.
Stop. I don't like that argument because all those guys have a bunch of options. Jalen Hurts has a top 5 offensive line in football. He has A.J. Brown, a top 10 receiver. He has Devontae Smith. He has Dallas Goedert. Jones wishes he'd have these guys. If you put Jones on the Eagles, is he doing what Jalen Hurts would be doing?
No. Eric, please stop.
Jalen Hurts,
please stop.
Look at Jalen Hurts' stats before they got A.J. Brown. I promise you'll think differently. He is not that good.
Eric, Jalen Hurts does everything better than Daniel Jones. That is awful, Eric. He throws better. He runs better. He reads the field better. You can say anything you want about Daniel Jones not having time. He is not reading the field well right now. And if you have the opportunity to draft a quarterback that is $40 million cheaper and has a higher ceiling, you have to do it. And I understand that he is at a disadvantage right now. But this quarterback class is too good. It is too good. You think that Daniel Jones would be just as good as Jalen Hurts if he was on the Eagles?
I don't know.
Gotcha.
I don't like putting those scenarios, but I feel like it would be close. It'd be close. Jalen Hurts, without those guys, his stats are truly nothing. Truly nothing. Go look at him one day. I want all the fans that watch this podcast and to look at him.
Dude, you're basing his rookie year sample size that was like 8 games, and then his second year in a new system, a full year in a new system, and then he finally got comfortable in his third year and was an MVP candidate
every single year. Daniel Jones has dealt with like 3 different coaches: Pat Shermer, Joe Judge, Jason Garrett calling plays. Sorry, I got my head in the camera. I'm sorry. He has the coaching now. He does. He has the coaching. Now they have to get a receiver. They have to, and a better offensive line. We now know Evan Neal is now a bust. Yeah. It didn't work out. We all know that. But the Giants, Daniel Jones, in my opinion, is the least of their issues.
I don't know. We're obviously we've obviously stated our case.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's going to change our ways. I agree. I feel bad for him a little bit, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Eric, is there a team that you want to talk about before we wrap up this episode?
There is, but I'm not going to make this super deep. I just want to talk about it quickly. I want to talk about the Houston Texans. I truly do. Because after watching the game they just played versus us and watching Jacksonville, that Jacksonville game, we could be looking at a good team in the future and maybe this season. Like I said, I was just telling you before we started this podcast. I said this team was going to be somewhat decent in the one of the podcasts we made in the summer because they have a new coach that came from a really good system that from the 49ers, D'Amico Ryans. He's done a really good job making CJ Stroud really, really good. We obviously didn't expect this from what we've seen in the preseason. I mean, CJ Stroud, I think, had like 71 yards in the preseason. And like, yeah, I don't even think he threw a touchdown. So we obviously didn't expect this compared to what Bryce Young is doing in Carolina.
Right.
CJ Stroud has been really good. 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, 0 picks, and a passer rating of 100 as a rookie QB. So I think he's got a bright future in Houston. Nico Ryans is currently second in receiving yards in the whole league, 400 and something yards.
Nico Collins.
Tank
You say
Dell.
Nico Ryans, Nico Collins. You're good.
Yeah, Nico Collins.
Yeah.
Tank Dell. They drafted him this year. He's been pretty good. We've seen in the Jacksonville game. I think he had 100 something yards. And then they have Robert Woods. They have a good spread of offense that they can get the ball to. And then they obviously have Damian Pierce, which I think their rushing game before this game was not that great, but they just exploded for like 100 yards versus us. So they have something going there. And their defense has been all right through the first 4 games. But my point is, I really do think you could see this team winning the division this year, and I think this team could have a good future. So that's my prediction.
It's crazy to say that. I like Stroud more than others. I wanted to see him play. He has the most passes out of a rookie without throwing an INT yet. Yep. He is playing with backup O-linemen. Have you seen their O-lineman injury report? Tunsil's out. Their center's hurt. Their right guard's hurt. Everybody's hurt from that O-line. Their running game ranks 31st in efficiency.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
His wide receiving core is, I mean, Nico Collins is a 3rd rounder, and Tank Dell is a 3rd rounder. You know,
and Robert Woods, he's a good veteran.
Yeah, and it's not a great wide receiving core. I mean, it's okay, you know.
Yeah.
And they're completely outdoing themselves. I'm excited to see how this plays out. It's still early, but we're a quarter of the season in, and they're playing great.
Yeah, they're 2-2 right now. They got the Falcons and then Saints after that, and then they got some. They have I mean, it's really not that hard of a schedule if you look at it. I mean, if you want me to, I can name other teams, but the point is, I mean, all these games that I'm looking at could be wins.
Yeah. No, I'll say this: they're not pushovers, and you're going into that game. I mean, the Browns are going to play them this year, and
I don't even say that game
change going into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my confidence has changed. That wasn't a scratch and win like it was before the season started.
But I will say this: 30-6 against us was probably a threat to you guys. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not scared, but I definitely will. I respect them a lot more.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
and after the Jaguars game, I mean, they put up 37.
Yeah, no, they're no joke. They're absolutely no joke. Again, I gained a lot more respect for them. We played that entire AFC South this year. We still have the Colts to play. We still have the Jags to play. I'm guessing they're going to eventually come around. They had a good win in London. So, I don't know.
And,
it's going to be interesting.
That division's actually pretty competitive so far. And we thought that division might have been the worst in football. And every single one of those teams are 2-2. So, I mean, we'll see what happens in that division. I think it'd be interesting to see.
Very interesting. Eric, thanks for being on, bro. That was a great episode. I appreciate you for being on.
Yep. Anytime.
That is another episode of the White Lightning Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Wheeler. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share to a friend that you think would enjoy this video. Have a great night. I will talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your week.